we're talking about a possible rivalry between the Princess of Wales and the Duchess of Sussex over jam. This is because, as we know, Meghan is relaunching her new brand and she's bringing out lots of jam. But we're on a job this week in Wales where the Princess of Wales let slip that she has a plum recipe and she was offering it to youngsters for free. Now, I would say it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but Rob, you've written a brilliant book about the Princess of Wales. Has there always been a rivalry between Meghan and Catherine?
That's very kind. Look, I think there probably has always been a rivalry that the media has tried to push hard on. The difference between these jams, I suppose, is one's going to be sold, I take it, from Meghan's, and I think she was just offering a recipe, Catherine, which is just a nice touch, a nice story. Yeah, it's just lucky the King's not in the mix as well, because he used to have his own jams that he flogged off to Waitrose. But look, yeah, I think we're always going to see a rivalry between these two women. It's always it's good copy, and it gives us a good headline.
Do you think they ever, both of you, I mean, you've seen them operating when they were both working royals. Do you think that they got on? Do you think it's the press that pushed this idea that they were rivals or that they weren't friends?
I think there was a big part of media involvement in sort of pitting them against each other.
Yeah.
We even ran a campaign against it at Hello Magazine a few years ago. And we subsequently found out, actually, that a lot of the tension was between the brothers rather than the wives. I'm sure it wasn't, all a bed of roses. But in many ways, the narrative became about the women when actually we weren't aware of what was going on behind the scenes.
And I also think that, it is good copy when you get the two women together, and that was probably what was going on. But I always used to think, why would they get on necessarily? They come from completely
very different characters.
Backgrounds and characters, and and I didn't really. I think that when they came up with the Fab Four idea, and it was all based really about one picture that was taken up at Sandringham, and then the whole thing got momentum, and I don't think really they were ever that close, actually. I think that the Palace press office were guilty of trying to make that a big issue. They had pictures of them, didn't they, at Wimbledon together and all these sort of things. But I don't think there was ever a real closeness between them.
No, we kind of had a hope, didn't we, that these two beautiful young couples would become, would create, as we called it, a Fab Four. We hoped that it would all be happy and merry.
But there was certainly a bit of jealousy came in the whole of this. When I think, from my understanding, when Catherine and William invited them over to the newly refurbished Kensington Palace, there was a clear difference in the size of the properties they were living in. And, I think it's only natural there was a little bit of a question mark saying, well, what's going on here? But maybe if Harry and Meghan had been a little bit more patient, and they would have got what they wanted in the end.
We read quite a lot about it, actually, in Spare. I think Harry wrote about, that Meghan was a little bit surprised. I think it was this thing where she said she was just wearing, she wasn't wearing any socks, or that she said that other people weren't much of a hugger. She was like dressed down when the Princess of Wales came over. There seemed to be like almost a clash of cultures, or clash of backgrounds.
Absolutely,
maybe.
but why should, absolutely. I don't know why anyone would necessarily criticise Catherine for not being a hugger. There's a bit of that over the topness.
And they both also, in the Oprah interview, actually both praised her and said that she'd been fantastic throughout. In fact, she was one of the few people who sort of came out of that unscathed.
Emily, on these rota jobs, so I was in Wales. It was another colleague of ours, actually, that was on this job, and the Princess of Wales mentioned about, you can have the recipe for my jam. Sometimes they leave us a little trail of crumbs to follow the royals, don't they? They'll say something that they know that the press will pick up and we will report on. Do you think that this was just small talk, or do you think that she was almost like deliberately laying it out there so we would see it and write it?
Matt, I wish I knew the answer to that, because in so many ways it would be the perfect trail of breadcrumbs, wouldn't it? But it's also entirely typical of the kind of thing that she would say on an engagement like this, especially if she's talking to children who are making jam themselves. We know, she famously talked about making the Queen some homemade chutney. For her first Christmas at Sandringham. So we know it's absolutely what she does. Whether or not she mentioned this deliberately is the million-dollar question.
We need to know. We need to try and ask. I mean, it's timing, isn't it? Timing is everything. Because, next week, Meghan's new TV show will air. We know a little bit about it because it was trailed back in January, then delayed because of the Los Angeles fires. I mean, I do buy the idea that it was solely delayed because of the LA fires. I don't think it was delayed for the relaunch. I'm just coming out with that. I think it was genuinely she didn't want to put the show out while the LA fires was going on. But are we looking forward to it? Will it be a success that they need? Because Polo wasn't particularly a very good success. Do you think With Love, Meghan will top the charts? Will it really boost her reputation?
I think people will be interested. Look, I'm not one. I'm sure Emily's not. There's an awful lot of Meghan bashing when it comes to these things, and it seems that everyone wants her to fail. But it would actually be quite a good story if it was a success. But I'm not overly inspired by it. It's not exactly going to be, something I'm going to be wanting to tune into unless it was a professional thing to do. It's just a little dull. But will it be a success? I think a lot of people would tune in out of interest. And what is success for them anymore? I mean, they've had some big numbers with their royal bashing books and their royal bashing documentaries. This is now, they're trying to do something, I suppose, that they tell us is all positive, but it just doesn't seem particularly inspiring to me. I mean, it's just like, an advert for a Waitrose or something. I don't know. It doesn't do anything for me.
Emily, Rob was saying, what merits a success? Is it going to be numbers? Is it going to be avoiding controversy? Is it launching herself onto a second series? Or
I think the big question will be numbers and how many people tune in, whether that's from curiosity or genuine interest and admiration, and whether then that's enough to sustain it. Whether people will watch past the first episode, watch the whole series. But as you say, I think this is going to be a very different take on her from everything we've seen, particularly the Netflix show in recent years. And this is, her not so much reinventing herself, but sort of going back to what she was doing before.
But if the numbers are low, really low, then of course it's going to create that negative publicity that she probably doesn't want.
But, let's not forget she had a huge following for the TIG.
Yep.
Her Instagram account, that did very well for her. And if people who followed her for that are still invested now, then there's potentially quite a big audience for it.
This is a really good point, and I've been thinking about this the last couple of weeks. Her Instagram page and this new show does seem a little bit 2014, 2016. Everything seems to be going back to how she succeeded or how she feels she succeeded on the TIG. Are you like me? Do you think that it feels a bit dated?
I think it's where she feels comfortable, and so if that's where she comes back into the game, then so be it. But it is difficult because I think the world has changed a huge amount since then. We're living through really turbulent times at the moment, and for someone in the public eye to kind of not address some of the big issues, that may prove to be challenging. We did see her, of course, popping up after the fires, and
she got criticised for that.
She can't win whatever she does.
But it's all also about perception, isn't it? And the perception of this woman has changed dramatically since 2016, 2017, and that's partly her fault, partly the way that the media circus creates a story around her.
Okay.
One thing is for certain, though, people are going to just keep talking about it. We're talking about it now. There'll be a lot of discussion about it when it comes out, and perhaps that's enough for her to just keep things ticking over.
Yeah, that's probably it. It's just to consistently keep in the news, or to keep presenting herself in the manner that she wants to be presented.
And it is in the royal family's interests for them to be successful.